So you finished school at what age?
18.
18. And then what did you do?
That head Christian brother I was talking about that allowed me to sell the rabbits to give me time out. I told him I wanted to be a carpenter. I wanted to be a vet first. Then somewhere along the line I changed my mind when I started banging boxes together for pet rabbits and stuff and like that.
And you mentioned you made the table. You made the bigger table.
Oh yeah, that was afterwards. That was a later day. He got me in with a construction company there, a fairly big one by Irish standards in town. Told me if I passed the leaving cert, he guaranteed getting me in, which I did. Give me an incentive. And I spent 5-year apprenticeship and then another year as an improver where I was able to work on my own. And then I quit. Then I went to Dublin. I had to leave. Then I went up to Dublin. Started out there. Got more experience. Spent about, I think it was 11 months. Got to know my way around. Worked on houses. That's all I wanted to do was work on the houses, build houses. I teamed up with a Dublin guy. Got to know and like him. He was a good worker, good carpenter. And talked him in. Persuaded him. Had a heck of a job to get him to quit his job and let's go out on our own. Subcontracting. So got a break and went from there. Worked on our own then for 3 years. That was good. There was a boom on that time all around Dublin. Money was good. Finished up. There was a ton of work. Hired guys. I think we had 6 carpenters working for us at one time. And then I said, we're doing the sub work. And I said to Jim, why don't we just start building houses on our own? We know more about it than those guys. So yeah, but I didn't have enough money to, buy the land, pay all the wages because there's more involved over there in building a house than here. You need more help, like plasters, electricians. Well, you need that here, but especially plasters and bricklayers over there. That's 2 extra tradesmen you have to hire. Went to the bank and still see the guy laughing at me. He wouldn't give me a dime or a penny over there. Wouldn't give it to me. I says, why? I said I had money in the bank. It wasn't a lot, but I had money in the bank. I had my own car that was paid for. They told me I was a flight risk. I said, what do you mean? He said, if things go wrong, you'll be on the boat in the morning to England. Do you want to know what I said to him? Maybe I better not. But I lost my temper, let's put it that way. And I said, one day I'll have it and you'll still be working behind this counter. So I talked. I tried a few places, but I was first out in my home, my family. And I didn't have the connections. In hindsight, I didn't know where to go really. And I said, to hell with it. Told Jim, I said, I'm going to America. Because I still wanted to go west. It was still there in the back of my mind. So 6 months, called some of my cousins, and one sponsored me out. So 6 months later, I landed in Boston.
We weren't on record when we were talking earlier. When did you first know you wanted to come west in America?
When I was about 13, somewhere around that, 12, 13 or 14, somewhere in that period, because I got carried away with all these Zane Grey novels. And he was not some writer, you know, on those with those Western stories. You could smell the sage, you could smell the pines. I knew the smell of pine trees, but I had never smelled sage or the sagebrush or seen until I came out here. But it was right on. When I got out into Twin Bridges, I was here probably a week and got unpacked one day and I jumped in the truck and I drove up. I drove up here somewhere, up one of those draws, just before sunset. And I knew I made the right move. I said, I love it out here. And it hasn't changed. Well, you can see it, look down that valley. Doesn't get any better.
So what year was it when you first came to America, when you came to Boston?
66, I think.
And what were your first impressions of America?
They weren't good.
They weren't?
Didn't impress me. Nothing impressed me. Boston was dirty. Old buildings, old brick buildings, garbage out in the back. You go down those side streets, those garbage piled out behind restaurants and everything else on the side of the street. People, you know, Dublin has an atmosphere, Dublin City, and people are happy. They weren't happy in Boston when I came. And I was hemmed in. I was ID'd every time I turned around, everywhere I went. And all the traffic, I was used to the traffic in Dublin, but it was just a nightmare. It took me a long time to adjust. That first 12 months, it was tough. And then I wanted to come west, and I told my aunt, I said, I'm going to work my way across the country, get a job here, and just pay my way. I don't know the heck where I was going to go, but I was going. I didn't have a car or a US driver's license at that time. Oh, you can't do that. Told me, you can't do that. I said, why not? I'll get hired. Well, you're not going anywhere. I wasn't going to stay at home. My parents, dad especially, always told me there was too much gypsy in me. I wanted to travel and see what was over the next hill, but I've worked there. I stayed there for 5 years, 4 years, 4 years. But I had to wait. I came out in November, and I couldn't get into the Carpenters Union then because they basically shut down construction there because it's too cold for the winters. And it was the following, I think, May before I got back out on a construction site. And it was rough, the heavy, rough carpentry work was that farm work. Commercial, government buildings, all concrete stuff. The money was good. Really good money to pay a good union pay over there. But it wasn't what I wanted. In the meantime, I got married, and Sheila's folks had a summer place in Cape Cod. I was going down there on weekends and visiting, go down with the family and visit. There was guys building homes all over the place, and it was right on the water. That was pretty, rural. That was really nice. So I looked around and I said, I can build a house here. So when I got married, the first thing I did after I got married was buy a lot, half-acre lot. Start building our own house on weekends.
In Cape Cod or in Boston?
In Cape Cod. I had an apartment in Boston with my brother. I wouldn't build anything in Boston. You could buy these old triple deckers down in Dorchester or Needham or some of those places. It It was too congested for my liking. Couldn't live in it. To this day, I wouldn't live in Twin Bridges with 400 people. I'm not, what are you laughing at? I'm not antisocial, but I love the open space and freedom. And I had a certain amount of that in the Cape, but nothing like here. But I got the house closed in and the windows and stuff in it on the Cape. We moved down a year later. I do this on the weekends. Go down on Friday night, take Sheila. Then Bob was born 12 months later. Somewhere around that. And I go down on my own. And I think he was probably 6 months old when I moved him down. But that was rough on it. There was a few cabinets in the kitchen. A lot of the sheetrock wasn't done. But Sheila didn't complain. She kind of liked it. She liked the beach. And it was nice. But then I spent 10 years there. But over that 10-year period that I was there, it just got chock full of people. Rules and regulations, traffic on the 4th of July. They came from, all of New England came down there. It was terrible. But somewhere after about I started building then. I teamed up with John, my brother. And we built a spec house, speculation. Worked on that on weekends. In the meantime, I went to work for another outfit there. We were building houses. I have wages coming in. And that was tough. I did that for 18 months. Worked the weekend, put in my 40 hours for this outfit. Then go to work, come home, take an hour's break, and go and work on this other house. And work on it Saturday and Sunday. One time I was so flat broke, I didn't have grocery money left. At this stage now I had 2 houses. This was my own money. I didn't go into the bank. And I called John in Boston. I said, "You coming down?" "Yeah," I said, "I'd come down." It was Friday. I said, "Would you pick me up some groceries?" God, he stayed there last that weekend. I've forgotten about that one. Talk about land rich, here and no money. I was house rich and no money. But I got the house. We eventually got that house finished and sold it about 6 months afterwards. So that money was our own. Then we started another one. And I think the third house then was a custom order. Got my sign up, Giltrap Brothers. And we took off from there then. It exploded. If you had any skill at all and a bit of a brain, it was a land of opportunity. And it was great. But I never, like I said earlier, I never intended to stay in the States. And I went back, packed up, sold the house, sold every darn thing I had. I had one big check going home.
And you had children at that stage?
2. My little girl then, Siobhan, my oldest girl now. My 2 kids went home. And like I told you earlier, you can never go back. I had a green card that time. And you could only stay out, you had to come back within 11 months. Otherwise, it was all void, it wouldn't let you in. Or you had to go through the process again. So I came back. But in the meantime, back home, my younger brothers were starting out. Phone never rang for me once. And like I said about that house that I built when I went back, I couldn't get anything done. I said, "The heck with that, I'm going back." I came back and I came back to the Cape. picked up where I left off, just like that. Because, we were known.
So you moved home with your family for 11 months.
11 months.
Thinking you were going home for good, back to Ireland.
Yep.
And when the 11 months were up, you came back to America.
Got in before my green card expired, or that 11-month period. And I got a house right away then. I came back in, I think it was April. End of March or April. And I bought a lot. Down the road. I figured a lot. With a nice area, all timbered, private. And I had the house finished, and we were in it, and I had a party for the 4th of July out, and I had a deck out the back. And I didn't have the rail around it, but I had the deck down, and we had Sheila's family, a couple of my brothers down. Now, Sheila's family is extended, uncles and aunts over in Boston, so there were about 27 of those people.
And they were Irish Boston?
But, in 3 or 4 months I had that house finished on the Cape. And 6 months, 8 months at home, I only had the roof on. That's the difference. You could move here. They wouldn't let you move over there. You couldn't. You're beating your head against the wall. That's the way it was. And 4th of July was in.
And in all that time you said you wanted to come west. Had you ever come west?
Prior to, no.
So when did you come?
77. It got the construction industry, when you look back over the years, it averages, on an average, it's boom and bust, 5 up, 5 down, give or take a year or two. And that bust, when I came back, the boom was still on.
Here in America?
On the Cape. When I came back from Ireland to the Cape, the boom was still on. And I stayed with it. I went with the flow, give it all I had. And then it shut down. It was like overnight. I'm not exaggerating there, but it shut down pretty rapidly. And I figured, if I'm ever going to go west, it's now or never. And at this stage I had 4 kids. We had 4 kids. And I said to Sheila, I'm going to sell this. And we're going west.
And Sheila said?
She didn't say anything, which surprised the hell out of me. And I often wondered why, and then I got the thing, because in the meantime, I built a regular house that had a small summer place, and built a bigger house during that period of time when I was there for parents. And they retired and moved down. So they were only 4 or 5 miles up the road from us. But they always came down and visited every morning. They were in the house one morning at 7 o'clock before I had breakfast. And I think it was wearing on me, but it was wearing more on her, I think. So I think that's the only reason she didn't object. So John and myself, that's right, I shut down, laid off the guys, got rid of whatever equipment I had, and was sent away for a catalogue of ranches and stuff out here. I didn't know where I was going. I had it down to Wyoming, Colorado, or Montana, and I didn't know anything about either state. I met a guy from Denver. He was some kind of a salesman. I would retire down there. And he was telling me Denver was building up like crazy. I said, I don't want that. Plus, there's high you know, highest peaks down there, 14,000. Average is around 6,000 feet of heavy snow. Up in the mountains. So we came up through Wyoming, ran into all sorts of storms, and we didn't like that. Oh my God, we're driving through sagebrush flats forever. We came into Montana about 11 o'clock one night. I don't know. We came up some back road, a dirt road, and we're driving for 2 hours, never saw a house. I don't know where we were. We were outside Lovell. And then we saw a cow in the dark across this dirt road, and the sagebrush 6-7 feet high. I said, John, there's habitation somewhere around. Someone owns that cow. We didn't have GPS or anything that time. We're just driving blind on this dirt road. It must lead somewhere. And after a couple of hours later, we crested some hill anyway, and saw all those lights down below us. Didn't know what town it was. We pulled in anyway, and there was a campground, and the lights were out. And we pulled in. I had a camper on the back of the cover on the back of the truck, and we used to sleep in that. I pulled in, and John said, I said, there's no one around. We have to pay. Well, no one is coming after us for money. And this was 11 o'clock at night. So I just pulled in there and fixed up our beds in the back, and went to sleep, and left at 6 in the morning before anyone came around. And we were in Billings. We were somewhere outside on the edge of Billings. We drove up the road a bit anyway, had breakfast in Billings, and then came across, got off at Whitehall, and came down here to around Twin. Drove around. Spent 2 weeks driving around. Covered the whole state. I still prefer this part of the country. And went back. The house, I think the house sold after I went back. That was it. I had a house in America, and it sold afterwards. And I had to get out in 3 weeks. I think we had to get a rental because I wasn't ready to move. I think we had to get a rental real quick. I don't know how we stayed there, a month or something. Then I got a U-Haul. I came out on my own. I brought Bob with me. He was a little fella. We drove across the country on our own, the two of us. We were pros at traveling this time. And came up through Sheridan, Wyoming. Stayed on Interstate 90, pretty much all the way. Slept in the truck one night somewhere on Crow Reservation. I didn't know where we were. Pulled over one night. We were tired. No town in sight. That was kind of cold. But I had an awful job that before I went back while I was here. I had an awful job getting a rental because it was busy. It was busy around Twin. And the day before I left, we left it. I finally got a rental in an old, windy, dilapidated house on Main Street, across from the Senex there. And I left the truck in the back. The couple that owned they owned the King's Motel at the time. And Jack took me he worked in Butte, and he took us to the airport the morning we were going back. That's right, we flew home. Got into Cape Cod, we got into Cape Cod at 7 o'clock or something, and I called Sheila. I don't know where they were, left a message, I don't know how it was, but we went over to a hotel or something and waiting. And I started drinking whiskey. I was in good form when my brother-in-law and Sheila picked me up. God. They were fun days, you know that?
And you knew you were coming, you said you were looking at ranch catalogues. You knew you were coming for a ranch, even though you'd never ranched. I mean, I know you'd had the experience at home of...
Oh, I know the pigs and cattle and all that stuff. Because that had, for a long time, you had about 5 milk cows. But it was I never really gotten into it.
So so you moved here what year?
77.
And you bought a ranch.
A year later. About a year later. Came here. Moved into this rental. Bob and myself. Stove didn't work. Oh, Jesus. I don't know what we did for groceries, but the stove, I had to call the owner, get some guy out from Dillon and fix the stupid stove. And about a week later, 10 days later, it was during that week that we were there. I came up along here somewhere, smelled the sage and the pine, and listened to the hawks, and the eagles screeching. I said, I'm staying here. But called Sheila then and said, come on. And she flew out with the 3 kids, the 3 smaller ones, that picked her up in Butte. God, she wasn't too happy when I brought her into this rental. It was the only thing I could get. I was lucky to get it because I was getting desperate. I got so desperate at one stage, John and myself went up to Butte to see if we could get something to rent. Because here, I'd no house now back east. Nothing on my own. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I spent 2 weeks. I didn't know anyone around. I spent 2 weeks hanging around sorting out the house and the furniture, whatever we had. I said, I can't hang around here. I got to get a job. So we gathered them all up and put them in the truck one day, and we drove into Dillon. And they were looking for carpenters on a new clinic they were building in there. So I went down, the guy put me to work. So I started working there just for wages. Oh God, it was great. I enjoyed it because I had no phones ringing. I had no pressure on me. Put in my hours.
No paperwork.
No paperwork. No taxes. None of that. What a relief! But for 6 months, and this is a fact, I had imagined phones ringing in my ears all the time. Because it was mornings, I never get out of the house until maybe 10 o'clock. I had made the mistake of using my home phone number, which was a no-no. But in the meantime then, that place over there, I grabbed that.
The ranch?
It was open land. And I had to fence it. I had to build a house on it. And that took about a year.
And what did you plan to do with it?
I want to raise cattle, learn how to look after them, plant alfalfa, put in an irrigation system, punch an irrigation well, and learn the whole process. And I got to know you don't do that overnight. I also miscalculated how much money it takes to have a big ranch. It's amazing. Equipment is expensive. I never bought new equipment. I go to auctions and pick up used, good used stuff. Sometimes I had to put a little money into updating or upgrading them and then maintain them, and it worked great. But I was lucky to have such a good neighbour in old Siv next door with that big ranch. I asked him, Siv, how will I do this? We became good friends over the years. He passed away 2 years ago, or 2. What's this? 09. I'm losing track of time. But he'd let me out. And I used to come up here and with Larry, the guy that owns this property, help him and learn how to plough and what was involved and all that stuff. So I kind of worked, but it was a learning process. It was like going on it was like I was on a different planet. It really was, because it wasn't like Ireland. Mild weather, lots of grass, plenty of rain. Not here. But I got it working. It was small. Ran 100 head of cattle, which you can't make a living off of. But in the meantime, then I thought it was all through building houses. But I started jobbing around, and I built quite a few houses up and down the valley then over the years. And that, you know, I didn't make the money that I made on the Cape by a long shot. But it kept me going. And lady, I was in hog heaven. I loved it. God, I loved it. Got a few horses, got bucked off, got stepped on, got kicked with cows, got knocked cold with a cow trying to get a calf to suckle. Do you want me to go on? But there was nothing nicer to get up in the morning early, maybe have breakfast before daylight. And I used to have pasture over in a big hole, which was 2.5 hour drive over the road to go check on them. And I used to go over at least once a week and ride through them, 1,000 acre pasture. And my brother, he used to come out and visit, spend the summer and stay with me above. And throw him up on a horse, and the horse would lead him around. But it was so nice to get out, pull into that big old pasture, pull out the thermos, have a cup of coffee, get up on those horses and ride through the cattle. Nobody around, peaceful. God, that was great.
So you did it after
I did it.
a 13-year-old in a thigh watching the cowboys.
Yeah. I was a stubborn son of a gun. I always knew that. I was going to do it. I don't know what got into me, but I knew I was going to do that come hell or high water.
The Irish cowboy.
Yeah. I never regretted it. I loved it. I miss to the present day, you know, I miss my cows. I miss my horses. Although I have 2 up in Bob's, but if I put a barn up here, I'll bring them down. Right now, I see I have antelope out in my field. Come up around the fence. That's what I'm looking at there too. But yeah, I do it all over again.
So how long did you have the ranch across the valley?
25, 27 years or something.
And you raised the family on it?
Oh yeah. Built a nice house on it. Built a 5-bedroom house, big house. And yeah, it was great up there. It was only 4 miles out from town on that dirt gravel road. And it was just great. But ranching is a lot of work, like, you know, your calving season, you spend nights you don't go to bed, especially when it's bitter cold. You got to watch those calves. They freeze to death. You got to get them into a barn. You're cold. You get cold, and they're in and out. Come run up to the house and get warm. Go back out half an hour later, make sure everything's all right. Blizzard come in. 98 or 99, I had, there was a guy from Scotland, from the Highlands, really nice guy, and he was teaching in the college in Dillon, and his mother and younger brother came out and visited. Used to come out and visit, but he gave me a big write-up on this particular, he used to write for the paper also, on the side, Dillon paper, Dillon Tribune. But that particular weekend, it was the last 2 weeks of February, right in the middle of calving season. It was 30 below at night, and it was 20 below for a high in the middle of the day. Oh my God, was it cold. I lived with those cattle down that barn. And the cows that were out, my God, they'd circle and get into a corner, crunch in against one another, and we fight to keep the ones in the middle would be warm. Then they get too hot with the others, and the ones outside were trying to get in. They keep switching in and out. But this Scotchman's mother and brother, they wanted to see how he throw a rope, how he could rope these cattle. So I went down to the corral and pulled out the rope. It was 20 below. I showed them how to throw the rope. Let's go back to the house. They couldn't wait to get back. Couldn't believe it was so cold. It was cold. It'd go right through it. Can you quit for a minute here?